Hello and welcome to The Pulse. This year is the 50th anniversary of the 1967 riots, a period of Hong Kong's history that is often tactfully avoided on grounds that it's best to avoid hurt feelings. As a result, the memories become increasingly blurred, but the wounds remain and many people have not forgotten. More on that in part 2. The whole point of the express rail link, 26 kilometres of which crosses Hong Kong, is that it's supposed to be an express rail link. It will service 16 cities in China. Travel times from Hong Kong to Beijing will be around 9.5 hours and 7.5 hours to Shanghai. The government says that convenience will be lost if travellers have to pass through 2 border controls. So it wants mainland officials to operate in Hong Kong, imposing mainland law. Critics say this will knock a huge hole in the basic law.
冇一地兩檢唔等於係冇高速。
特區政府認為響西九龍站落實呢個一地兩檢係最能夠發揮高鐵香港段嘅經濟同埋運輸等效益。
一地兩檢個安排咧係會涉及非常複雜嘅法律問題。如果真係我哋開通嘅時候未有一地兩檢，咁我哋亦都會同時間去諗下有冇一啲折衷嘅方法係可以做得到，不損呢一個巨大嘅經濟效益。
我哋冇其他嘅後備方案。
On Tuesday, the administration finally announced its co-location arrangements for the Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link. The aim, it says, is to enable passengers to complete both Hong Kong and mainland clearance procedures in one go at the West Kowloon station before or after taking the high-speed train. The West Kowloon station has 5 levels. The government's plan is to lease areas as mainland port areas at arrival level B2, departure level B3, and platform level B4. Within those areas, mainland authorities will enforce mainland laws for clearance procedures. The arrangement is controversial and, say critics, a blatant violation of Article 18 of the Basic Law, which clearly stipulates that national laws shall not be applied in Hong Kong, and the further erosion of the one country, two system principle. The government gets around the niceties of this problem by stating that the Hong Kong area in questions will not be part of Hong Kong.
基本法本身呢係冇 define 到香港嘅範圍嘅，因此咧一地兩檢響呢一方面嘅相關嘅安排咧係唔會違反呢一個基本法。
It is Hong Kong which invites Beijing to assist, to help us to forgo our protection, to give up the jurisdiction of the Hong Kong court, and then the central government simply just accede to our request.
To introduce the co-location arrangement, the administration wants to adopt a 3-step process. The mainland and Hong Kong SAR reach a cooperation arrangement. The MPCSC approves and endorses it. Then the government introduces it to the Legislative Council. Pan-Democrats do not agree that setting up mainland port areas in Hong Kong via 3-step process is similar to the co-location arrangement at Shenzhen Bay Port.
The sad reality is that at the end, it is the MPCSC which has the final say on the law. We keep on saying that we treasure our rule of law, and one important aspect of the rule of law is that be you ever so high, you still need to be subject to the law. Even the highest authority still need to be restrained by the law, by the basic law.
The administration says the co-location arrangement would be similar to the one that's been operating at Shenzhen Bay Port since 2007. To set up this Hong Kong port area, in October 2006, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress authorized the Hong Kong SAR to apply its laws within the Hong Kong port area at Shenzhen Bay Port. In April 2007, the Legislative Council passed the Shenzhen Bay Port Hong Kong Area Ordinance to declare this part of the Shenzhen Bay Port a Hong Kong port area and applies Hong Kong's laws.
因為當時有審議呢個法律㗎啦，咁如果識嗰啲，咁咪知道佢咪呃人咯。因為中國嘅憲法係冇話唔準俾特別行政區嘅官員、執法人員咧在內地執法咁，佢冇呢條啊嘛。但係香港有啊嘛。
Well, with me in the studio is legislator and convener of the newly formed Roundtable, Michael Tien, and former legislator and Senior Counsel Alan Leong. Michael Tien, can I come to you first, because you've been involved in this railway project for many, many years. There seems to be many ways around doing what the government has now done with this decision to hand over the land to the mainland authorities. Why weren't any of those other options chosen?
In the document, government has clearly stated all the options that they've considered. If we believe them, which I do, it needs the agreement of both governments. And what they're coming up with now is the best that they can achieve. I think the key is, first of all, everybody wants co-location. I think there's no debate about that. So my basic premise is I want a co-location agreement that doesn't violate the basic law. So whatever government has put forth, does it or would it violate basic law? I have no idea. Of course, then there are other opinions saying that, well, by the time that happens, probably the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress and would initiate another interpretation. I said, well, let's not assume anything. Why don't we give it a go first? So now there's another battle which I think is actually even more important, which is public perception. Public perception is not about whether this violates Article 18 or not, but rather about the uneasiness of Hong Kong residents standing on the platform of West Kowloon Station within the restricted area, doing something that violated national law, and they don't have any idea.
Like looking at Facebook.
They're looking at Facebook, reading a banned newspaper, doing something. I am actually quite concerned about that. And I hope something can be done to resolve that kind of uneasiness or fear.
I mean, Alan Leong, I know that you're very unhappy about this arrangement, but some people say, oh, you know, it's the Democrats crying wolf. They never like these things. They always say it's the start of the erosion of one country, two systems. I mean, do you think this is such a big deal that has to be spoken about?
It is indeed a very big deal, Steve. If the border between the Hong Kong SAR and the mainland cannot be kept and remain intact, then there is no way that we can make sure about mainland laws not applying to any parts of the Hong Kong SAR. Now, what the government has now proposed is that they are asking the National People's Congress to empower Hong Kong SAR government to reduce in size the territory over which only Hong Kong laws will apply. Now, how can that be right? If that be right, that would lead to the conclusion that maybe the National People's Congress can empower Hong Kong government to carve out other areas to enable co-location arrangement to be implemented. What we are now in, as a matter of reality, is that the Central People's Government is now not shy to go back on the promises enshrined by the Basic Law, especially the promise that it would restrain the exercise of its powers so as to allow room for Hong Kong SAR and the one country, two systems to succeed. Now, they are going back on their promises, and you don't now tell Hong Kong people that our courts can go against this highest authority.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. We're out of time, but we'll be back after the break, and we'll see you then. Welcome back. It's 50 years since, in the long hot summer of 1967, the mass insanity of the Cultural Revolution spread to Hong Kong in the form of riots, bombings and murder. The disturbances began as labour disputes, but local leftists saw this as an opportunity to spread communist fervour. Some of those involved even believed that the mayhem would force the British to return Hong Kong to Chinese rule. Most of the local population did not share their fervour, particularly when bombs killed innocent victims, including children. Bomb disposal experts were called to defuse as many as 8,000 suspected explosive devices, of which 1,100 were real. For almost 8 months, the territory was embroiled in violent demonstrations, strikes, murder and intimidation.
我哋嘅局限性就係最 visually 就係我哋揾唔到片，得21秒。咁呢個局限性唔係我作出嚟嘅。
We are not yet ready to talk about 1967 in a really rational, meaningful way.
You'll never find out what actually happened, partly because it's too fine-grained, too detailed, but you can at least try and avoid the worst distortions.
The 1967 riots, which lasted for 8 months and resulted in 52 deaths, made up the most violent chapter of post-war Hong Kong history. They were born out of labour disputes over wages and working hours in several companies, including the Hong Kong Artificial Flower Works. They were also born out of Red Guard activity and the Cultural Revolution that were engulfing the mainland, largely orchestrated by local organizations affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. A few years ago, former news documentary producer Connie Law met some people who'd been imprisoned for their part in the riots. The meeting inspired her to make a documentary, hoping to present a new perspective on the causes and consequences of the disturbances. She spent 4 years completing it and called it Vanished Archive, because during the process she discovered much film of the riots had mysteriously disappeared from the government archive. The Government Records Service says that it currently holds only 9 identical 21-second film clips and some 300 archival records relating to the 1967 disturbances for public access. According to one source, some clips were allegedly destroyed in the 1980s as they posed a fire risk.
我哋睇嘅時候揾嘅時候係2013年，解封係30年、40年、45年咁樣解封嘅。有一啲嘅檔案唔見咗，會唔會係喺某個解封年度、某啲年份佢未開封呢？我哋當然唔知道佢嘅機制係點樣討論。可能歷史學家喺唔同嘅時候做呢啲研究呢。有每一個時代嘅局限性，我哋嘅局限性就係最 visually 就係我哋揾唔到片，得21秒。咁呢個局限性唔係我作出嚟嘅，即係我哋揾嘅時候冇。
John Carroll is a University of Hong Kong professor and the author of A Concise History of Hong Kong. He says that while documentary footage may have been removed, other material is easier to come by.
Well, I think it's a great title. Vanished Archives. I don't think that the archives themselves are as scarce as the film suggests. In terms of footage, it wasn't difficult finding images. In fact, some of the images I found were available overseas. Some of the images were held by collectors here as well. I have noticed that since I did the book, which was 10 years ago, that there's a lot more on YouTube.
我恰就係揾唔到我要採訪嘅6、7少年犯嘅檔案。我見到一啲名單，僅係屬於咩學校嘅名單，但係有一啲嘅人物，包括喺台上而家建制台上嘅人物， 佢哋做過啲乜嘢嘢咧？應該有 file 嘅。
Before taking up a career as an academic and author, Stephen Davis was a British Royal Artillery Commando officer garrisoned in Singapore. He recalls that 50 years ago, he was deployed in Hong Kong on May 24th, one member of 40 Commando, some 2,000 troops here to handle any potential situation in the colony. Recently, he tried to dig out files from the British National Archives and elsewhere documenting his 1967 duty. He found nothing.
We were not there. There was a complete news blackout. There's just one, the mentions in the Hong Kong press say 40 Commando has arrived on a routine visit. Whatever is in those files, which have not been released under the 30-year rule, they've clearly not been released under the 50-year rule, I don't suppose that a Freedom of Information Act request would get a release either. Probably what's in those files, maybe there was an intelligence source inside Hong Kong within the pro-China, anti-colonial government element because they've been infiltrated. And these files will presumably show who. Where did this intelligence feed come from about what was going on over the border? And maybe some of those people are still alive. Or if they aren't, their relatives are. And that probably is not a good thing, even 50 years later, to have out in the public domain. Cheng, it's very nice to be in conversation again. And here we are on the 50th anniversary of events in Hong Kong that everybody looks back to as a watershed, a turning point for Hong Kong.
Right.
And in our respective ways, we're both veterans. I'm actually wearing a veteran of the period. This is my regimental tie. It's 51 years old. I actually wore it on the streets of Hong Kong in May and June 1967. Yeah.
How impressive.
I mean, you think about now, somebody was saying the other day, you know, the 50 guys who were put in jail and the 50 people who got killed, they should be martyrs. Should they?
Those people who were actually killed may not be exactly those who had killed anyone. They were victims in the whole affair.
And I mean, don't you think the people who were running this, they must have been aware of that? None of them were fools. They must have been aware that this was a tinderbox.
There were definitely rather confusing messages coming across from across the border. There was a time as a university student, I was here, right? Yeah. In this university. There was a short period of time during which I did believe that the British were going to leave Hong Kong.
Really?
Yes, that the PRA were actually coming.
Wow.
Because there were calls in the in the pro-Beijing newspapers.
Yeah.
Right? If the British do not kowtow, then
they've got to go.
Yeah, they've got to go. Macau actually set an example for, at least for the Hong Kong workers.
Right.
Right. Of course, the Portuguese government in Macau, right? They
kowtow.
Yeah, kowtow very soon.
Yeah. When we're talking about 1967, it would be good if both sides began to talk more towards the middle, in which not everybody was either evil or stupid or wicked or oppressive.
There was a time when I believed that we were growing wiser in the way you have just described. Back 50 years ago, we are not yet ready to talk about 1967 in a really rational, meaningful way. People can still get very emotional when they talked about the events that year. To some of my friends, the wounds are still fresh, albeit it's already 50 years ago. You couldn't really get to the true cause of everything until you agree on what those everything actually were.
You're right.
Right? I think today many of us cannot even agree on what actually happened then.
But don't we then just courageously say, what I've just said. We'll never know what exactly went on.
And?
It was sad human beings clashing. And so let's put the story with all the question marks and move on.
This, I think, is perhaps one of the most, the nagging issue among many of my friends. They have been blamed for what happened then. They thought they were simply acting in accordance with what the general line was coming from Beijing. And then suddenly they were told, no, the leadership never thought that way. You were wrong.
Right.
And you did all these foolish things. So this is the most difficult thing for them to swallow.
From two people who once upon a time stood on very opposite sides of the fence. Cheng Yok Sing, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.